Yeah, this is our third meeting. Hello, Martin. How are you? Martin is here. Good to see you here. So it's our third meeting, Chit and Chat, with Satori. So we don't have like agenda. We would be do the free talk and conversation about Satori and everything what is around Satori, what is happening in our space. Martin, you must get some mic, some problem with the mic.
Oh, I'm here. I just had new mic.
Oh, yes. You're very loud. One second. I must get my headphones now down. uh, yes. Welcome everyone. Probably feel still will be joining to us. Like I said before, that meeting will be recorded and will be put on the YouTube. So we can listen it later if someone missed. So hey Will, how are you? Good.
I'm good. This is chill, so I figured we should be getting our coffees and stuff, chill out with. So
Yeah,
cheers.
That would be perfect.
Early riser, cheers.
Yeah, cheers. I have my tea. I have my herbal tea. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mine's not coffee.
Oh.
Well, coffee later
Something
on,
a little
so.
stronger, huh? Well, that's better cheers. That's a better cheers then.
I hope it's not that Irish coffee.
Right, Irish coffee.
Yeah, that would be a strong one anyway.
Anyway, well, if nobody else, I could. I'm really excited about the stuff I'm doing, and I could talk about that if nobody else wants to talk about something.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
sure. Go
hopefully,
on.
Meta shows up, right?
Oh yeah, he was saying to me that he probably will be joining to us, but with him, it's never know. He's very busy. He said that he'll be doing his stuff, but he will be listening to us. But I hope when he'll be here, he will be joined to us to the conversation. So yeah. Sorry.
Oh, he knows about the new engine stuff they're working on more than I do, so I can't really talk about that.
Yes, he put that on the progress report at the beginning of this week. So I hope he'll be joining us to explain more about new AI engine and how they will be switching between the old one and the new one and how this works like. But we will be waiting for him. So we leave that now for side. I know, Will, that you are doing some kind of amazing stuff with your engine AI and predictions. Can you say something more about that?
Yeah, so I'm like I said, I'm really excited about that. And it's neat to be able to come on here and talk to you guys because otherwise it's just me in my head. Well, I do talk to Jordan a lot though, Meta, and oh, there he is! Holy cow, he's alive! It's real. You're not just an AI. I can't hear you though.
Oh, Martin, hello.
I just wanted
Nice
to
to see
switch
you.
over to something less comfortable.
Wait, you look a lot younger. Are you sure you're not an AI?
I worked out a lot. No, leaving my wife took off like 10 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But hi, sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
Oh, that's okay. So anyway, I've been, I've had other people to talk with, like Darko here and Meta, and they've been the on the receiving end of my tirades of I don't know what to say. Maybe a good word for it, Darko. There, what are they like? Just spews of my brain, like I just chat about what I'm thinking about a lot, like I'm writing a paper or something. I don't know. What's a good word for that? I don't know. Anyway, um, I'm like I've had this architecture that I've written over the last 5 years, and it didn't start out the way it is like today, but I'm running it right now. It's live. It's been training for about 4 months now. 3 months. So it's the architecture itself is relatively standard, I would say. But I've made modifications. So basically, I took the llama architecture with all of its added stuff. Like, I mean, it's a decoder only transformer is the kind of more precise name for what the llama is. It's similar to, it's like an evolution of the GPT architecture. So you guys have all heard of Chat GPT. Well, the GPT part is it's pre-trained. G stands for generic pre-trained transformer, I believe. But the actual architecture is a decoder only transformer model, right? And anyway, the main difference that Llama is between that and Llama is that they updated a lot of like the low level hardware stuff. Like uh, they made all sorts of add-ons and things that made it faster. Basically, they just made it faster and more efficient, and uh, they figured out a bunch of the stuff that they needed to figure out to make it work really well. And so that's kind of like the the state of the art or whatever, that's currently does the best in that industry. So basically, I've taken that and I've modified it to work with time series data. This is basically what I did. So on the lowest level. So what that offers is it offers this really this advanced uh, AI core, but for a different use case than doing LLMs or doing text, right? So which is the time series, which is what we're doing here. So I figured that out. I'm actually using it with it's not normal time series data. I'm using it with tick data, which is different than like for currency pairs, which is different than tick data. I mean, it's different than time series data. So the difference is that the tick data is event based more than time step based. So regular time series has like a cadence. So it has like a 1 hour. You guys are all familiar with this, I'm sure by now. It has like minute, hour, 10-minute, whatever data. And so at each point, arbitrarily, that arbitrary time step, you get a new data point. It's kind of like the average or something. They calculate that. Who knows how they calculate it? There's lots of different ways you could calculate that actual number that you get in the time series data. So it could be an average of what happened in the past hour or day. It could be like whatever. There's a couple of other ways, I'm sure. So different kinds of averages, like whatever. So anyway, tick data is different. So tick data is an event. It's based on the events. So it's a when a change happens in the market, the price changes, an actual trade happens in the market, then the tick data reflects that. And so it can happen, within a minute time period, you could get like, 300 different trades happen. So you have 300 different data points within 1 minute, as an example. So that's actually the data that I'm working with currently. But the same thing I'm doing, the same architecture, it still has the capabilities to do the time series. So anyway, so I'm actually so all the stuff I have currently, I've written in Python, and it's all based on a bunch of stuff that's already out there, PyTorch and stuff like that. But what I'm doing for Satori right now is I am taking that architecture, that whole idea and everything, and I'm actually converting it over to C++ and C. So C++. So what that means is I'm actually taking Andre Karpathy. He's one of the big names in AI in general. Some people call him AI Jesus. Not me, but some people do. Anyway, he and a bunch of people put together an open source thing called LLM.C. So I'm basically I'm taking that, and I am converting it over to the ability to do time series data. So it'll all be everything. The core engine there will be written in C++. It'll use CUDA for the GPU acceleration. So that's what it uses. The reason I'm choosing that and going with that is because they have focused on training from the start. There's also another open source. You guys can still hear me okay, right? Okay, good. Yeah, my mic was having some issues when I was talking to some people the other day, so I just wanted to make sure. Anyway, so the so there's another kind of C++ focused open source project called llama.cpp. So it's based on another library, and I'm completely familiar with that. I did a whole bunch of work with it. But the problem is they haven't solved the training thing in their libraries, so they don't really have good support, and it would take a lot of work. They're working on it, but they're not. They didn't like start out doing that really well, and so LLMC is kind of coming from the opposite side that they did, and LLMC is, excuse me, they are they're uh, um they made the architecture like simpler and had it train in the beginning, and so and then they're like working on actually making it closer to llama. So they started out, they're just doing GPT. So they started out with the earlier GPT, and they're making their way towards the llama um, uh, uh, accelerations and everything. So they haven't really got that in place really well. But my thinking is, so I had to choose between these two if I was going to go in this direction, right? So my thinking is that the important thing that I can bring to the table, and I think the important thing for for any kind of live prediction system is going to be live training. Um, you know, Meta or Jordan kind of showed that really well with the thing he figured out with the XGBoost, and so that kind of shows the value of the live training. And I haven't been able to show that with the Chronos and the TTM because they don't do that. So they do not do the live training out of the box. I did work on bringing that into the picture. I did work on that, but I didn't finish it. So I've got a bunch of work for that, but it's not quite done. So I switched to this other idea, this other thing, this other path, because I've already kind of done it and it's already kind of been there. So it'll start off with a GPT style model. Is basically what's going to happen with the LLM.C libraries. So it'll start off with a GPT level model, and then over time I can update it as they figure it out, and add in all the stuff to make it to the level of Llama, with the performance and all that. So anyway, so down at the bottom baseline, it's the reason I'm doing this. It's competitive, at least with PyTorch. doing it this way, and a little bit faster because you do have the C++, and the main thing is you don't have this huge environment that you have to include with like the Docker and all that. So right now we're doing Docker, and you have to, like, we have 2.7 gig install to get PyTorch in there, and stuff like that. So this is kind of like the path towards what I see, and Jordan Meta sees this as well, is that eventually we need to move into the space of, like, we have a Bitcoin level tech. Like, we're talking, Bitcoin was originally written in C, and you know, the code was, I've been in that code. I spent a lot of time inside Bitcoin Core's code. The first node that ever came out that started this whole thing off, right? And that was all written in C. And there's a lot of benefits to that, that are obvious to developers. So anyway, it's not like something that's going to happen tomorrow for sure, but I wanted to get started on the path towards that with the Satori project, so that eventually down the road, it could become something really robust and solid, and not dependent upon all this other stuff. So kind of the way I think I see it is, you have this research side, which is really what's going on right now. Satori's like in a research phase. It's figuring out how it fits into the ecosystems, what it can do, and it's evolving as it goes. And as those parts get kind of solidified, with this kind of research state, uh, and evolution, as the parts kind of get like, oh, this really works well, everybody loves this, this is a great part of the thing, we can then move that over into this more performance standardized, self-contained kind of environment. And so that's what I'm getting started with as well. So I'm really excited about it, on that side of it. That's why I'm excited about it. But also, it's also a way, we've kind of figured out a way that I was going to keep, like, the stuff I have closed source, um, and private. Like, I was going to be like, I have my own predictor that I'm going to hook in, and I'm not going to let anybody else see it, right? And because I spend a lot of time on this, and I don't get an effort, so we figured out a way and you guys are supporting this as well, that I feel good about, like, taking all that and kind of basically pulling it into open source, and and making that available to everyone, that on the network. So that's kind of the idea there. And I'm going to move all this over into the uh, into a repo, and then I'll have an adapter that will connect into the Satori network, and it'll be available for anybody to use. Like, we'll have it packaged in there, and when we get everything set up to be able to choose your predictor, it'll be one of the options in there. So you guys will be able to try out, and easily under nodes and whatnot. What I've been talking about here. Um, so that'll be great. Um, so anyway, I went into the basic structure that's, I think, important for you guys. Um, anyway, so that's all. I don't want to just sit here and talk the whole time. I mean, I like. I mean, I do like talking a little bit, but I like to listen too a lot. So if you guys have questions about it, it'll be awesome.
Yeah, so
Or,
that was
or
actually
whatever.
really, really nice and exciting. Like, because if you bring that your engine with the C++ and Llama going to the GPU and Ciudad, we can start using the graphic cards to do the prediction, basically, by choosing what engine we will be using, like our user will be using.
Oh yeah, totally. And not only that, but like I was saying in the last chat we were having, it's not just using the GPUs isn't the benefit, because like what there's a whole data science thing, and everybody has, like, all these really awesome stuff that they do, and they can contribute, to to get those kind of things to get accuracy, right? But it's all about the accuracy at the end of the day. So, this is just my kind of stab into that space, and you may or may not actually get better accuracy whether you have a GPU or not. It doesn't just automatically confirm, make your predictions more accurate because you have more compute. That's not really the best way to think of this. What it does is it offers the compute that you can handle more harder situations. Like you can handle more data faster. So you could deal with higher frequency predictions, for example, with the GPU that you may not be able to do on the CPU, right? And also there's the whole multivariate thing. So if you're predicting multivariate, then and trying to get those correlations that Darko was talking about, you eventually you get to a point where, especially if your data is like really fast, you get to a point where you can't it takes longer to predict than the distance you're predicting into the future. So in other words, the minute happens and you're still trying to figure out what's going to happen in the next minute, right? So you need a GPU to speed that up, and at that point. So that's really what it's about. But I mean, everybody loves the idea of the crypto mining, and the faster, bigger, faster, better. So, I'm not gonna, I don't want to, I don't want to take that out of people's mind. That moving to GPU is a great thing, because it is. Having that capability to do it is really, does make it available to do more, better, but only if you actually need it, is my point. So does anybody want to talk about other stuff, or is that super interesting and you guys want to hear more?
I totally segue off of that.
All right.
Okay, so if we're doing time series prediction, and we're pretty serious, and let's use the 4x is the example. I like to believe it, in the term of fencing. So when I was younger than I am now, learning how to fence, I came across an instructor who was a former Olympian instructor, and he basically absolutely trounced me. And the way that you get really good at sword fighting is you find the absolute best person out there, and you fight them, and you fight them, and you fight them, and fight them, and then months later you might actually get a hit on that person. So the way I look at it, so this is the sword fighting analogy in time series prediction. So you have all your best time series prediction tools, and let's say you're the top quant forex trader, and you wake up and you do a Fourier analysis, and you do all the things, and you predict an opening price, you predict a closing price, and you predict a couple prices throughout the day. So Forex that is not crypto has a range of a few pennies per day. So, your margin of error is going to be wider than your prediction, and you know, you could make some money via opening and closing price, and that would be okay, but you're not going to make that much money unless you're making a whole bunch of predictions and making a whole bunch of trades. So people who are really good at, we'll call it analog time series analysis, using R and Python and stuff like that, you will consistently outperform every Forex trader that does it by gut instinct. You will outperform every meme coin holder. But in the background, there are AIs working, and Forex is the only market where AI is allowed, And most AI trading kind of sucks. It's kind of barely better than the algorithms. But someday that AI is going to catch up to the best quant traders out there. And when that day comes, the absolute best quant trader, the absolute best predictor of time series data will never catch up with that AI ever again. That's how I see that. So, you have a lot of humans doing the absolute best they possibly can, but at some given point, Will's AI will catch up with you.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Well, hopefully, but I don't think it's that totally clear. But yeah, if somebody, it could be. I mean, it's possible for sure. But that I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you like you said, one of the first things we did together, you learned all that stuff, and then I just went out and through a deep network at a problem. There was some contest that we had or something about predicting whether a picture had on Mars had um, volcano in it or not. I think that was the thing. And I just ran the model for like 2 or 3 days on an Amazon instance and training, and it was able to do like 96%, 98% or something prediction, which beat most of the people who were trying for sure. It was pretty trippy. Even for me, it was, truthfully. Anyway,
Yeah, but
yeah,
Martin, what you were saying, like if we reach to that point when the AI will be doing like forex trading a lot better than the traders or whatsoever, so at that point, just AI will be on the business, like no, and the who have the better trained AIs. That's what I can see.
The famous adage, there are two jobs in the future, you telling a machine what to do or a machine telling you what to do. Yeah, well, we're here.
so hopefully at Satori we're willing to embrace that idea, and we're all here helping build that future and trying to make it the way we want it, right, rather than the way somebody else wants it. So I really do like the feedback, and I'm doing my best and giving it away to everybody for that reason. And I think that's the core benefit of an open source project, is that everybody is a part of it and everybody gets the benefit from it. And we're all in it together here, and I like that. I like that kind of situation. I like to help.
Yeah, so that's like actually if it's open source like AI, like Satori is trying to do, it's our chance actually to manage the AI in the way what we want, like community want, not the big corporation or whatsoever, that they will be like, do that, choose that path. So that actually the big advantage of Satori project now.
Yeah, totally. Does anybody else have ideas about that, or why are people here, or what's going on with everybody?
Yeah, I totally don't want to bogart a space, so I want to hear from somebody new.
Yeah, there was a lot more people last time. Maybe some kind of holidays, or I'm not sure now.
Yeah, careful, I'm going to start talking about Hawk Talk coin.
I would love to contribute more, except I'm learning from you guys. Like I'm more of a a plant kind of guy, but I've always been into crypto since way back for whatever reasons or another. But so yeah, when I was in the Evermore project, since they kind of forked off of Raven, back in 22, And then, I found out about Satori, back in, February or, January or something, and I've been kind of following along, obviously, like everybody. And, over the last like 6 months, 8 months, whatever, I'm very much like you guys. I think we all have a lot in common, and that's kind of why we're all here. Because of an accumulation of similarities, whether it's personality or you know interest or whatever the hell it is. There's a reason we're all here together, and not just we're not like one of these people in the price chat. They're just trying to pump it or whatever the fuck. We're not here for the money. We're not capitalistic. We're here for more of the bigger picture or something. And so yeah, aside from being here, because I have a handful of neurons, whatever, maybe a few handfuls. But aside from that, I've always been obviously inquisitive, but I just find new information in education so fascinating, especially in regards to useful education, not just learning about something or something that happened 500 years ago that doesn't necessarily apply, but future education. In regards to preparing for to make your life better or whatever it is coming down the line. I just so a lot of the time I kind of just sit here or sit in the chat and I learn from other people's questions and stuff like that. So I guess I'm just here as more of a student than and a slight participant on the network or whatever, as opposed to somebody with a more technological background and can actually provide any useful input. Maybe at some point, I might have a good idea when I accumulate enough information to make a tangible prediction or something, or whatever. But yeah, I just kind of joke around in the chat room and kind of provide, basic support for noobs like myself. But yeah, I admire all you guys and everything you guys are doing and have done, and it's just super awesome to be a part of this amazing community. And I just look forward to see what the hell's going to happen, because it's just super exciting. And you guys are awesome, everybody. Thank you again. That's all I got for you.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think so. We all learning each other, reading the chat and do those meetings. So yeah, just sharing the knowledge.
Yeah, super, super, super awesome. I like being on that side too, truthfully, and I learn from a lot of things like the people do. I'm super into tech and all that, but I'm not so good at other things. So like it's really interesting for me to just listen to other people and hear what they're doing and trying to get an idea of where they're coming from and stuff like that. So that's really exciting for me, for sure.
I like how you summon Ravencoin and Raven shows up. It's awesome. Hey, Raven.
Yeah, maybe I can. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, go on, Lenny. We can hear you.
Yeah, I joined the party a little bit later than you, so maybe maybe I don't know, 1.5 months ago or 2 months ago. So yeah, I appreciate your time and your approach for the whole project. So it's kind of unique, I would say. So yeah, but I have a question regarding the Evermore blockchain. Can you provide insights of the latest developments, maybe of the Evermore blockchain, and how it's, specifically elaborate how Evermore current technology advancements influence Satori itself, and how is it limiting, maybe, because it's pretty new. So I'm not really into Evermore blockchain, but yeah, maybe can you give some insights about that? So yeah, that would be it. Maybe you don't have crazy insights, but yeah, it's pretty exciting for me. Yeah. Thank you.
The early riser, do you know anything about that? You probably know more than I do, actually.
Yeah, I suppose myself and probably Casva as well, because we're on the, we're kind of, we always check in on the Evermore Discord as well, and usually, every week, Zeroth, holds a live chat thing like this for an hour or two, at 8, 9 p.m. Eastern time, and he did one last night. And on the official, then it's always something in the works, especially you always kind of have a roadmap. And then when you start driving shit, you hit traffic, there might be, a tree in the middle. There's always twists and turns you never foresee, so it's always a evolution or journey that oftentimes, especially with feedback from the natural environment, kind of dictates kind of where you end up from where you initially thought you'd be. Sometimes, you just have to take the long way around the mountain, which is always has the best view, like I say. I'd rather do something the hard way. Like Thomas Edison said when he invented the light bulb, it took me 1,000 tries, but I learned 999 ways not to make a light bulb, and being a pursuer of education and just accumulating knowledge and challenging myself, et cetera, et cetera. I always hold myself to kind of, I guess, that vision or idea, if you will. But so anyway, they're working on a bunch of shit, and Xeroth was going over it last night. We have the bridge thing, the asset tolls, this, that, and the other, upgrading this, and Magic Wallet with the pool thing, and but anyway, and we said halfway through the chat, we're like, oh shit, is anybody taking notes? And but fortunately, Crypto Life Crisis, kind of paid attention enough to accumulate some information. And on their latest Twitter post, which I guess I can try and post the link in the chat, was like 5 or 6 bullet points of stuff that's in the works that should be, like Xeroth had a different idea 2 months ago before people and, Satori started demanding, the people are more capitalistic who wants bridges, rather than making better predictions, they just want to make fucking money, which I understand, everybody comes from a different background, so we all have our own paths we're on to, some extent, even though they intersect, in a big, 10-lane highway and shit, and that's, I guess, why we're all here. But anyway, they're working on a bunch of shit. And it's all super awesome. And I'm going to go pull up another tab window and grab the Twitter link. I forgot what they were, but there's quite a number of things. And there's other things that kind of got put on the back burner. So you can put other shit on the front burner, the bridge thing. And so there's stuff going on with Ever. Join the Ever, just go to the Ever website and click on the Discord link, and then I think officially every week it changes from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with Xeroth, shit comes up and whatever else. But he's got allegedly going forward every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I guess is 1 a.m. UTC or 1 UTC. I'm not a time magician, but yeah, there's weekly live updates, and we can ask questions, and a lot of people, Kazbot, everybody, there's a lot of cool shit going on, and it's worth hanging out for an hour because we have an awesome time. We have some good laughs, and we stay up to date on what's going on, and we can interact with the system and potentially help even shape it, accordingly based on our input. So it's super awesome. And anyway, I'm posting the link in the chat side thing now. That's all I got for you.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? This is Dwayne. You guys can hear me? Yeah,
Yes,
I think
yes,
so.
Dwayne, go on.
Thanks, Early Riser, for pointing out that it was on X. I'm like, I know I saw notes somewhere, so I looked it up while you were talking. So some of the stuff that was discussed during the updates is asset tolls are about to hit testnet soon. So asset tolls are if you're an NFT creator and you have an NFT and you sell that, and somebody and that buyer sells it to somebody else or transfers it to somebody else, then you'll get royalties as the creator of that NFT every time that NFT is forwarded or sold to somebody else. So also in the works is there's going to be a Satori pool support in the Magic Wallet. That's currently in progress, and there's some backend being rewritten to better support that stuff. Also, there were some other updates that may not be of interest in here, but there's more listings coming and being worked on in the future, and there is a legal letter, basically a legal opinion that that Evermore is not a security, that's in the finalization stages. So that's going to be released pretty soon. And then generally that weekly call, anybody could get updates and ask any questions they want. And there's a lot of brainstorming that happens, and it's an interesting call to join in on Thursdays.
Yeah, you should all come.
100%. I'm also going to say Jordan Miller, Mr. Metastack himself, he showed up last night for a little bit, so sometimes he pops in. So the people who hate on Ever, in the Satori thing, I'm just saying they're very mutual. Nobody's trying to do anything. It's all I guess symbiotic, if you will. So but yeah, so sometimes Meta's there and you can throw questions out there because he's not here. You're like, oh shit, well he should have been in the Ever last night because then he could have talked to him. But anyway, that's all I got. All right.
Absolutely.
And then to jump on that as well, there's also the bridge work that's being done. I think early riser mentioned it, but that's gonna basically open up Satori, because Satori is going to be the first implementation on Evermore with the bridge. When that's going to basically open up the entire Ethereum world to the Satori token. So and then that will later be expanded to support any Evermore Evermore asset, and including Evermore itself.
And not only that, we're going to be bridging farther past ETH and going into other chains such as Sol and so on and so forth. So it'll be universal, essentially.
I got a quick question. I'm not a big trader or anything, or market person. I tried doing it, like I mentioned probably in the chat, and I just lose my money. I'm like, I get impatient. They're like, don't trade with emotion. I'm like, whatever. I buy something low, I sell high, and then I get anxious, and I'm like, oh, this sucks. I'll try another one. And then my money slowly depletes. So I pretty much stopped doing that. That's not for me. But I'm just curious in regards to with the ETH thing, because I know there's gas fees. I know this is a topic of discussion. We're here for Satori and AI and stuff like that. I'm just curious with the bridge thing. Is there gas fees, or is it how the fuck kind of does that work? I don't know. Not that I care because I'm not going to be trading anything anyway. I'm just curious because I don't know if anybody even knows the answer, but I'm just curious.
I can probably guess. Okay, so there, you gotta deal both ways. So you have transfer from Evermore to ETH, and then you have ETH to Evermore. So that process is the way that I understand it. And I don't know all the exact details because it's kind of still kind of in the process of happening. So I can't say, well, this is definitively the situation. But the basic idea is that you mint. You have to mint on one side or the other. So you're minting. So the process of doing that, minting, is it already exists on both sides. Do you have minting on Evermore, and you do have minting on these other chains, whatever the chain is. So that exists. Okay, then you need some sort of a way to coordinate the process of, you have to do something over here and then something over here, and the thing over here. Let's say you're going from Evermore to Ethereum, then you have to do something on the Evermore side, and then you have to do something corresponding on the Ethereum side. So on the Ethereum,
Yeah, because essentially the total circulation has to be shared between both chains.
That's right.
So
That's right.
if one gets minted on one side, the other gets minted on the other side. But if you're holding, let's say, Satori on the ETH side, and you would probably have to pay more gas fees, in turn would raise the value of Satori to make it universal between both chains. Would it not? In my case, in my theory.
Yeah, like you're talking about the like arbitrage. So if it's the arbitrage is going to change the price for sure. So like when whatever it costs or whatever cost to do something over here, it's going to change the price over here for sure. I mean, that's like, that seems to be pretty obvious, like to me. But as far as the details of like how that should happen, how that what I'm thinking, and I think what Jordan's thinking, and I'm not sure about Evermore, but I think that's what they're thinking as well, is that you like burn on the other side. So on the Ethereum side, you mint, and then on the Evermore side, you burn. So that way you keep like the all the specifications that you've set up on the other chain then carry over to the other chain. So in other words, you're saying, well, we're only gonna mint this amount on Evermore maximum. Let's say you have something set up for that. Then if you burn over here and mint over here at the same time, then you're going to respect, you're forcing the system itself to respect that, because then the amount you burn is equal to the amount the amount you burn is equal to the amount you mint.
Exactly.
Is right.
Set equals. Yes.
Yeah. And then whatever happens over here to your token is going to be determined by the markets over here on Ethereum. So whatever the prices are happening over here, that's going to, with that token, if you go to sell it, whatever at whatever price, there's going to be an arbitrage opportunity between those two. So if the market here doesn't follow this market doesn't follow this market, they're going, people are going to be making money off just that, right? And as long as the fees don't get in the way, right? So like the fees are going to, like you said, are going to be a big part of that, how that actually works, right? Because that's like your base amount that it costs to do the arbitrage, because you're paying the fees. So in other words, you can't really do arbitrage if you can't go backwards. So if you don't burn here and mint here on Evermore and burn on Ethereum to be able to move it back, you're not actually going to get the market here, but the price may change over here. And I'm not sure, because you can still, even if you can't you can't do it so the base level thing, I believe, is that there's an official token on the Ethereum side. Without doing this bridge at all, that still has value. The issue is like, how do you actually mint it? You can't, if you make it an official token, you can't actually mint it over here unless you do something like I talked about with the burn and the bridge. So in that sense, with the market, the arbitrage, you can actually do the arbitrage without the bridge, because you can always trade a token over here for like USD. You can always trade a token over on an Evermore for USD, and then take that USD and go buy the token over here on Ethereum. So it's not like the bridge is forcing you to. It's not like you can't do that without the bridge.
Yeah, this whole thing seems ridiculous because I go to the market and whatever I want to buy XMR for whatever purposes or whatever, I want Dogecoin that I mined, 10 years ago, or whatever. And I'm like, this seems like a secondary, unnecessarily thing that detracts from both the Evermore and Satori developer. I'm like, just go to whatever, convert it to this, convert it to that. You'll be done in half an hour. I understand, these people have, everybody's in crypto for various different purposes. Everybody's from a different walk of life, but I'm like, it's not like it's not possible to get Satori into BTC from any other means than a bridge, and I'm like, oh, geez, what's the next request going to be for you, because you guys already got your hands full. You're already like, oh, shit, I should have finished that last week. I still got this to do, and now I'm like, oh, yeah. So I'm just curious. I'm not opposed to it, and maybe it will have some sort of benefit, in regards to, reaching out to a broader community, or people, want to get more people into, for capitalistic means, but whatever. And I maybe it'll have some benefit that we don't even see yet, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just super primitive, and I'm just like, just trade it to this, trade it to USD, and then buy some ETH, or whatever. You can buy anything, whatever. Anyway, but I appreciate your explanation, Will. I don't know. It just doesn't seem logical to me. I'd rather work smarter than not harder, you know? But who the hell knows? That's just me.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure either. Like I said, I'm not really good at that part of things. I just know like the technical processes needed to, fulfill functions. So it's like you got to think of me. I even have it on my Twitter that my pronouns are him, right? So my pronouns are him and /it. So I really kind of feel like I'm an it, even though people kind of look down on that. I still kind of in that boat. Um, so anyway, what I described was the process, and you were originally asking about the fees. And so the fees to do it are just going to be the fees involved in burning on the Evermore side. So that's going to cost a little bit, and then minting on the Ethereum side is going to cost the fees, and of course any other fees that cost for any kind of trade you do on the Uniswap or whatever. So if it's in a Uniswap contract, it'll be a Satori slash ETH or whatever. So the fees are actually, if these guys can put it on like a Solana or a Arbitrum token, then the fees will be a lot lower, right? Even then, and Ethereum fees aren't really huge these days, not that I've seen. So even for these bigger contracts, and they kind of like made these contracts more efficient and stuff like that. I think with like Uniswap v3, like the latest Uniswap, there's a lot of neat stuff in there too that it's kind of new, I think. But
Right on, man.
yeah. So anyway, so I don't think there'll be that much, and I think the main thing is that it's getting if you just keep the Satori token, this is the only one and this is the thing on Evermore, and you can do that. But if you make an official Satori token on these other platforms, it seems to me like you don't really have to, particularly because people like you were saying, early riser there, people can go, they can just figure out Evermore and use it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Evermore is capable of doing all that. It doesn't need to be bridged over to F. And essentially, if we could work on asset tools on Evermore and continue building and developing things, because Evermore is way more faster, way more simple than Ethereum, and you're way more secure. It's in the end, it's better, in my opinion.
Yep.
And we should just keep on building on that.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. So
How's the new AI engine testing coming along? I heard you guys are testing it. It's in development, and are we getting any closer?
We're getting closer. Do you guys want to see it?
there you
Absolutely.
I don't really have a UI for it, but I'm happy to share my screen and kind of explain what the logs are showing. Let me turn it on here.
Quick question, Will. How many copies do you have over there? Because I saw you go through. I already went through like 7 cups myself earlier, and then I saw you go through one. I think I was getting low, like me, and then you just busted out a new one. So I'm like, oh Jesus, what does this guy have? Like a 6-pack? All right, that's.
This is what I'm looking for. This is something exciting. Awesome.
You guys able to see that?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay, so here we have the new engine. All right, let me just take you through at the very highest level. We have the old engine too, so let me minimize all those. We have the old engine in these old files, and we kind of carved out a space just for this new engine, and I think everything's going to migrate over to this new framework over time. But I have it running, and what we have is this pipeline pattern. So we have the actual main engine, which is the file you're seeing here. This is the high level, like, main loop that it runs. And what it does is it continues to, it chooses a pipeline. You can actually see it kind of in the code. It chooses a pipeline right here. And then it runs a training loop on that, on your particular data. And then it sees if the new model that it just trained, we're calling it pilot, is better than the last model that it trained. That's called stable. And so it compares it, and if it is better, it then saves the new pilot model to disk and as the new stable model. So it says, okay, well, this one's better than anything we've seen before. So let's make sure we save it and use it going forward. And the cool thing about this is up here where it chooses a pipeline, we can have as many pipelines as we want. And a pipeline can be a specific model. It can be a group of models. It's called pipeline. So you can think of it as a pipeline of models if you wanted to do a group of them. And so by just making a file over here that looks like the interface, let me show you the interface right here. If you just make a file that looks like this and has a class that has load, save, fit, compare, score, and predict, if it has those abilities, if your model does, you give it those abilities, then anybody can make their own model. Anybody can make their own pipeline. Anybody can explore and try new things. You can share models. So it's going to be pretty much that easy. We've already made several. We have, for instance, an XGBoost pipeline. So in our old engine, it pretty much just used the XGBoost algorithm. And so we said, well, in order to see if our new framework can handle it, can we import basically our entire old engine just as a particular pipeline in this new engine? And the answer was yes. It works pretty much the same, does basically the same stuff. And over here you can see it's running. And this is kind of that comparison I mentioned before. It compares the stable score with the pilot score, and all of these are in yellow, so the pilot was not as good. And so it didn't do anything. If we're lucky, we might see, maybe I have some examples up higher. We might be able to see an example of when it figured out a new model that was better. I don't see one in here. Sorry, but when data comes in on this new engine, and this was kind of the pattern on the old one too. When data comes in, sorry, I'm just looking for it. Here it is. When data comes in, it says, okay, we received this information. We received a new observation on the raw data stream, ASCUSD, 10 minutes or whatever. And that triggered the new engine to say, okay, well, then since I have this new data, 11.315, I'm going to use my current pipeline that I'm using, and I'm going to make a prediction. And so it makes a forecast, grabs the prediction from that. I have all these printouts here. And then you can see at the very end, it sends that prediction off to the network. It says, okay, here's my prediction, sends it out. And anyway, that's the kind of the two main functions of the engine are continually look for a better model. That's number one. And number two, whenever there's new data, go out and produce a prediction immediately using the best model that you have made so far. So anyway, that's kind of, I know this is all code and logs and it's not really that fun, but any questions? Anything?
Actually,
I got one.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I
where
guess
does
everybody has a
the data come from?
What was that?
Where does the data come from? So where is
That-
your source?
That data is coming from the rest of the network. So the oracles out there on the network, this is live data on the production network. It's coming from those oracles that people have set up in their neurons.
Oh, okay.
So essentially, it's using the same network, the same neurons, and just using a new model engine. And you would say, in your terms, this is a faster model. It's better for predicting. And how soon can we get it used for the public?
So it's faster in that it starts predicting sooner. Actually, let me show you that. Since it uses multiple models, actually, let me just put that false so we can kind of see this highlighted. Since it's using multiple models, we can say, and we can give it all kinds of different rules about this, but we can say, look, if I just barely started up my neuron and I'm looking at a data set that I've never seen before, maybe the data is completely empty, maybe it just has a couple observations, but I'm brand new to the network, then we're going to use something called the starter pipeline. And so the starter pipeline is extraordinarily simple. It just says, basically it just says whatever the last data is in the stream that I have, since I only have a few, pretty much just average them and make that your prediction. Because we really don't know anything. Any prediction is as good as any other when you don't know anything. So make your very simple, educated guess, and it takes zero amount of time. And we're just going to continue to gather data, and we'll try to use a different thing once we have more data. And so when we do get more data, say we have 3 to 1,000 data points in our data, we might use the XGB Chronos pipeline. And this is an amalgamation of two algorithms. The Chronos model, which is, Will can tell us more about that later, I guess, but I think it's a transformer model, isn't that right? And then the XG Boost, which is a tree model. And so the Chronos gets run on all of these data points, giving a prediction of each. And then XG Boost kind of learns how much it should weight the Chronos prediction in order to make a prediction. And it gives the final one. And so we can use different, like conditions, states of the system, in order to choose the appropriate algorithm and model. And we want it to be as fast as possible, of course. So we can even build things off of how much processing power I have. So here we have, if I don't have very many processors, and I'm just kind of basically, why don't we just use the XGBoost pipeline for now? If I just have one CPU that I'm running on or something, I'll just use this simple algorithm. It's been pretty good, and it's very lightweight and easy to do. So we'll just do that one. If I have lots of cores, maybe I'll use a different one. If I have GPUs, we can add that in right here. It's pretty easy to say, if you have GPUs, let's use different algorithms, so long as the data is also pretty good to use on GPUs. So anyway, this is a whole lot more flexible, I guess, is what I'm highlighting here. It's the framework. We put a lot of effort into the framework to make it flexible and extensible.
Well, that's awesome. Looks great. Thank you. And
Yeah, I agree.
how soon do you expect this to be available for our public people?
So I'm going to make an image this week, and it'll probably be on test. So it'll probably be a test image. And by that, I mean, when you pull the latest Docker image, it pulls the Docker image tag to latest automatically. But if you want to override that, people can, and they can pull the test image. So I'm going to put it on test as soon as possible. And then anybody who wants to can test it out. And
Perfect.
then
That'll be just as simple as just editing the Python code in Satori. And then, yeah, exactly. Perfect. Right on.
Yeah. And then I'll make the latest once, we feel like it's good enough. It's been tested well enough. This has been a huge, it's not just the engine that's coming out. It's a lot of other things too. We've refactored several different systems. And so we kind of have to test those. If it was just the engine, I'd feel good enough just to push it to the latest. But it's going to be a lot of things. So we're going to test it this weekend and hopefully get kind of the latest new version out this weekend. But if not, then it'll be early next week.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. I haven't actually spent much time in it, so I don't know exactly what he's doing, but it's pretty obvious here to me what's going on. And I think one of the things I can add is that it'll make it a lot easier to deal with the data better, and we can start. It'll be easier to do the historical data. So I've talked about that before, where the current system is it if you start a new data, so you start predicting a new data stream, you're the only one getting the data. I mean, there could be like historical data involved in that, and so right now there's not a process to download that historical data in any form. But setting it up this way is going to be way easier, and implementing it in here is going to be way easier than doing it inside the old code structure for sure. So that's exciting, and a good thing for me for sure too.
Yeah, it should serve as a good foundation. Any other questions? And then I'll stop sharing.
I just have one quick one, just out of curiosity, because this stuff's all beyond my level of comprehension. I'm not, as computer literate as you guys, but especially when it comes to the coding thing. But is it the idea to have a multitude of different, as you put, different variable engines or models in which to do predictions based on particular circumstances or setups? Or are you ultimately just going to go to one wholesome thing that kind of can, or are you just going to see where it goes as the project comes along and evolves? Just out of curiosity.
Good question. Very good question. So I think things have this pattern where they tend to differentiate a lot. They tend to start out the same, and we started out with basically one algorithm, right? So they start out the same, and then they tend to differentiate, and a lot of complexity gets added to the system. And you build things that work for this situation and that situation, and then at some point it reaches a maximum, and then it starts to condense back down to one generalized solution, or maybe two or three, but to a few generalized solutions as possible. And that's kind of just the pattern that I've seen in a lot of things. Like this happened with early days of computing, when they, at the very start, they didn't even really know that binary was the way to go, right? They had like trinary computers, and like they would try different stuff. So they explored, and then they came back to the generalized form. And that's typically the way it goes. And of course, you always find some offshoots that are like good for this particular situation, like basically forever. But it's the generalized form usually takes up most of the space. and this happens in like as we're developing as humans, like we start out as a baby and our brain has a certain structure, and then when we're like, I don't know, throughout our early infancy and by the time you're like 2 years old, your brain has like made all these massive connections. It's very much interconnected and it's got a lot of wiring. And then 90% of those connections get cut off and die out. And we're left with kind of the default mode as we develop further. And so right now we're in the expansion phase where we're going to use whatever algorithm is correct for whatever hardware we need and whatever data we get, and so on and so forth. Eventually, the force that I think will take over more and more is the force of saying, I have a meta model that is learning how I should build models, what algorithms to use, what hyperparameters to use. I have a meta model that's learning how to build models, and that meta model is informing all of those decisions more and more over time. The more data I get and the more it's ran. And so I suspect that we'll come back to a uniform solution eventually. And it'll probably look something more like a series of neural nets or a neural net, or something along those lines, because everything else has gone there. So, but CPU, there's a lot that can be done, especially on small data sets like we have now on CPUs, and really bringing in the deep stuff before we even have the data to really justify it isn't kind of, it would be the wrong path to take. So anyway, we're in the expansion phase right now.
Well, your name is Meta.
And there is one other thing I didn't really mention. This SK pipeline in particular, that is a pipeline that I haven't really worked on this pipeline at all, but Jerome has, Krishna has, and they've put in probably 30 different algorithms into this pipeline all by itself. So it's kind of, sorry, this keeps popping up. It's kind of a very advanced pipeline that's supposed to be able to handle a lot. And so that was the vision. It was like, you guys work on a pipeline that could theoretically handle anything, and we'll see how that goes. We'll also have these other options, and the community can make options. And so we're just kind of exploring still.
Like I was saying earlier, it's research. It's research time. So the early riser, I think your last thing is probably the closest. Your last thought about it, what you said, is probably closest to what's actually going to happen. We're just going to keep trying a lot of things and then settle, like Meta's saying, down to hopefully the things that actually work the best. And I think really that comes down to accuracy. I mean, that's kind of the key thing. And how accurate are you? And how accurate are, I shouldn't say you, how accurate are these algorithms? How accurate are, like, no matter what anybody creates, like at the end of the day, it's the, how predictive actually is this thing, right? And not in the sense of like, how predictive is it today, but how predictive is it going to be 5 years down the road. I mean, maybe that's not important either, because maybe if it's really accurately predictive today, then somebody can work hard and make a new one by tomorrow that's going to be accurately predictive tomorrow, even if it's not the one today isn't match the one tomorrow. So there's a back and forth between how much human input and effort is put into it, and also how much automation is there. And so, there's that as well. And I also see, so it's really important for us to do this plumbing. I see this as kind of like the plumbing in the house, the electrical, the things, but then other people live in the house and make the house their own. But we're providing the plumbing so that, people can make these kinds of algorithms. And so the one I'm working on is going to be fit into there as well. And it's interesting, the thing that's kind of different is that I'll be making an adapter for Python for C++. So that means that anybody who actually writes algorithms in C++, maybe nobody knows anybody that does that, but there are people out there that do. They'll be able to put those into this as well. And so we'll try to document that and try to get that so that the people can, if they have ideas, and different things and want to write the code, can put it in there, and it's set up in a way that is approachable for people, and relatively easy. I think that's kind of key in this stage that we're going through, where we want to try everything out, right? And maybe even going forward in the future, and that's kind of the meta thing. It's just that could be as well.
Yeah, it will be awesome. Like, like with the new AI engine and all the features, like you say about C++, and the GPU and CUDA, and to get out from even Docker, it will be really progress. I see that we have one more guy here to join to us. Enzo, are you here with us?
Good morning. Yeah, I am. I'm just halfway through my first coffee and zombie mode still.
Oh, okay. You for last few weeks probably personally on the coffee, yeah. So I just
I can touch on it real quick, Will. You're right. I like to complain, you know me.
yeah. So for the new guys, the Enzo is the guy who is doing some amazing stuff, and hopefully will be soon on the Satori. Like we also are waiting for it. Can you say something more about it?
Yeah, so obviously we have a lot of predicted data already, and we need a way to analyze and go through this data. So one of the first things that we're going to try is a system. After listening to Meta, a good way to talk about it is pipelines. Basically, you'll go to the website, and right now it's just a search bar with a simple graph and a few different prediction streams that you can click. It's just very basic. What we want to do is make use of different LLM models. No one in particular, all of them if we can. We have various different agents that we want to have in the pipeline. So say we're looking, we'll just go with the price of Bitcoin, seeing as everyone seems to know what we're talking about there. Say we're looking at the price of Bitcoin, and I have no idea about crypto. I've heard about this new Satori prediction AI system, and I want to have a look at some data. Basically, it'll go through various agents that we'll set up. Community will be able to make their own agents as well. This stuff is pretty simple. Everyone's sort of been exploring this technology for a few years now at a high level, right? It is still very new. But basically, one agent will be in charge of like illustrations, charting. There will be a technical analysis agent. And you can set these up however you like, right? But what we will aim for is a basic setup to go through our data in our system at first. And obviously, it's a search engine, so it needs to be fast. It's not going to be fast like Google, and it's not Google, right? So like you'll type in the search bar what you want to look up, BTC. It'll start the pipeline. It'll hand off the query to various agents in the pipeline. It's all set up with WebSockets, so it's real-time streaming. You'll get data back in real time, but some of it will be slower than others. So you'll sort of see a report start to fill out in front of you. And depending on what you're chasing, you'll get a very comprehensive overview of that data. LLMs aren't exactly reliable. They're not perfect, but they are. It's pretty close to being reliable. Depending on what you want to do, I mean, we can get it to draw charts and illustrations and things like that perfect. As far as technical analysis, we can only set them up to follow existing patterns. So, you know, there's obviously a lot of different technical analysis, what would you call them, methods. There's tons out there. Not all of them are right, not all of them are wrong. But we can implement them, use them, and analyze all of our data for our AI network using this system, hopefully. So I've got the basic concept up and running. It's pretty well ready to be tested and start playing with, which will happen internally first. I was supposed to have it pretty much ready a couple of weeks ago, but it's one of those things that it's just, there's a lot of testing involved. I don't want to put something out for us to continue building on that's going to slow things down or not really show what's happening. So very, very close. It is, proof of concept's already working. I'm hoping like before Christmas we'll all be using it. Med will be using it first and telling me whether it's good enough to present to the public or not. But yeah, I hope that's a okay explanation as to what we're doing with that. We want to give power to our data that we're collecting. It's a very important part of it, obviously.
So yeah, that would be amazing and big step. It will be like Chat GPT or GPT connected to the Satori network predictions.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It won't be just ChatGPT, so any LLM model. And we're also, at first it will talk to like the OpenAI endpoint and then to the agents that have been set up there. But we also are running our own hardware. So it will talk to our GPUs and agents that are set up to run on individual GPUs. So, you know, we want to decentralize this as much as possible and not rely. We're not going to give all our data to OpenAI, right?
Yeah, correct. So the guys, if you have any question to answer, it's just a nice opportunity to ask them something, because next time probably we'll be seeing in the next year.
Yes.
I'm super excited that you're doing that, Enzo, and I'm really excited to hear about it. I've been thinking about that part of it a lot too, so I'm super excited to see what you do. Thumbs up.
Thanks, man. Yeah, the making the agents is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the part where, like, okay, we've got everything working nicely. Hey, Enzo, let's try this kind of agent for this task, and we throw it in the pipeline. Like, yeah, I'm sort of excited to see where it goes because it's very powerful.
I have a general question. So, what's the roadmap of Satori for the next year? Can you say something about this? Like partnerships or new milestones?
Probably Meta would be the best to answer that, right?
You know, people reach out every day for partnerships and trying to figure out, you know, I have to ignore most of it. Not because I'm too busy or anything, but because most of it is not beneficial to Satori as a project. Most of it is just, you know, not helpful. So, but when people reach out that look like they might have a project that's useful to partnership on, I try to talk to them, and so there's nothing in the works yet with that. As far as an high-level roadmap for the next year, I can see it from a development standpoint, developing the network. I know what needs to be done there and basically the order in which it needs to be done. But it sounds like you're more asking about not just the development of the internal systems, but also like the project as a whole. Are you asking about like marketing or any other things like that? Is that kind of what's motivating the question?
Yes, exactly. Like someone or like a company, you know, who would use Satori for predictions and for valuable data, you know?
Yes. Yeah, we kind of have to continue to build it out first before I think we're going to find a lot of traction there. I mean, I have had a lot of people and companies reach out to me saying, hey, we would, in fact, I had a not a government organization, but an organization that like supplies data to the government reach out to me, and we had a call. And they were saying, hey, you know, we tried it. We're basically like a think tank. We try to get senators and lawmakers and people that make decisions. We try to get them the right data, up-to-date data. You know, we try to get them, and it would be great if we could get them future predictions too. And so, I mean, we're talking to them, and you know, there's a bunch of stuff like that, but none of it's solid. None of it's like for real yet. You know, none of it's guaranteed. And so, there's not really much I can talk about as far as answering that particular question. And I'm more focused on, well, let's get something that really wows these people. You know, let's continue to mature the network and the technology. We're not just building like a network, you know, we're capturing the protocol of how networks in general should talk about the future. So, so it's a big process. Anyway, I don't know. Is there any? Maybe I can answer any specific question you might have.
Thanks. But that sounds good.
I had a question. Wasn't planning on speaking, but question on if we've solved the peer-to-peer node discovery issue without having to open up a port, or are we still looking at, you know, possibly having to have like a DNS discovery system for the peer-to-peer communication?
Oh, great question. So we sort of have a solution there. What we will probably need is a backup DNS, like you're mentioning. I think we're going to need that. But using WireGuard out of the box, it seems like we don't need that. Well, anyway, we'll probably need a rendezvous service, like you said. You may not have to open a port. Like I'm saying, I see these as two separate things. You may not have to open a port using WireGuard unless you're in some very restrictive NAT situation. But as far as peer-to-peer discovery, we will need a solution for that. No matter what technology we use out of the ones we've looked at. So the WireGuard looks like it's coming along, and we've got a kind of a temporary, like a first pass server that can connect peers together. We will want to make that a fully decentralized DNS capable system. We probably won't launch the peer-to-peer with that in place, though. We'll probably just launch it with this rendezvous server that all the neurons can connect in with, and then once they get the peer-to-peer information, they can then talk to peers directly. But so that's kind of a bootstrap situation, because once we have them talking to peers directly, they can then coordinate on which what the connection details are for other peers. So anyway, does that answer your question? Actually,
Can I say a little bit about that? Actually,
yeah.
So, I've been in this whole thing for a long time, and that particular issue, I think is like going above and beyond. It's an industry issue. It's not actually just a Satori issue. It's an actual industry issue. There isn't any good tech out there to do that, because of the structure of how people are set up and what people have, the whole IP networking protocols that we all adhere to. And because of those protocols, this is a problem that everyone has, not like in the whole world. So Bitcoin, like if you want to run a node on Bitcoin, you have to open a port. Like if you want to run an actual, even today, if you want to run your own Bitcoin node, which is still possible, I think, you have to be technically inclined, or you have the technical capability to actually open a port on your own router. So it's not something that I think that we should be responsible to solve as an individual project. I think that we could be a part of that solution for the world and be, in a community of other people and be like, hey, we want to solve this, and make this, and make this better for everyone. But if we were to solve that, it would solve it for the whole world. So I don't think it's, I think it's something that is definitely important to think about, and it'd be awesome. But I don't think that we should be responsible to solve that particular issue. So with that being the case, I think that just setting it up so that you do have to open a port to do the decentralized, and then having an alternate system where you don't, and it is centralized, it is fine. So it makes it so that you have this uncentralized, purely centralized system that that Meta is responsible for, or whoever is responsible for. You can even do that like federated, which means that you have the code open source, so that everyone can set one of those up too. So that early riser could set one up, maybe, and then everybody that connects through him is kind of like in their own federated group. So they rely on him to get that to get that connection going between the nodes, the neurons. But anybody can set one of those up. It's not just Meta, so that's a step towards that as well. But it is federated and it is centralized in the sense of, that operator is kind of responsible, right? So anyway, that's a thing. But then at the base level, if it's just available, if we have a neuron that can connect, and you just have to open your port, like manually, like you have to figure that out and actually do it. That gives it the same level of decentralization that every other project in the world has to deal with right now. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, and I don't remember exactly what the connection criteria are for WireGuard. If you could remind, is that just having the node, like node signature? Etta?
Yeah, it has a signature. It has an IPv6, I think. It's got a few other things, but the basic pattern in the way that we will use it is we'll have WireGuard installed on the base machine, and we'll have the WireGuard instance in the Docker, so that those two can kind of communicate in and out of the Docker. And allowing that to happen allows it to connect to peers. And the way we've tested it, well, anyway, we're still in testing. I don't want to speak before I know all the full details, but we have been able to get nodes connected directly to each other and send data, historic data. That's what we would mainly use it for in the beginning. So we've already tested that and gotten it to work.
Okay, yeah. My question really centers around. I want to make sure that as I'm writing EverDNS, that it's usable by Satori also. And if you guys aren't familiar with EverDNS, I wrote a protocol a couple years ago called Squawker. It was ghetto Twitter on Ravencoin. Basically, you could send an asset to yourself and leave an IPFS link, and then having that transaction on the blockchain kind of flags it, and you can go look for those transactions and come up with the messages or whatever. And so with EverDNS, it would be the same thing. You could send, in this case, you could send a Satori to yourself, which is a worthless transaction, but it leaves that flag on the blockchain that would denote, hey, this IPFS file is where my DNS records are. And so you could have a DNS record that's attached to a private key or a public private key pair. And so all you would need to know is the wallet address, and then you would be able to have a DNS record, and that's controlled by the keys. So there's no way to fake that, and other than doing it yourself. So it's 100% controlled by the person themselves. And then my way to integrate it into the current IPv4 system would be to have a domain relay. So you have a DNS server and run it like, the address .ever.badguytie.com. And then you could just do a DNS lookup on the subdomains and then have your IPv4 address, or, if we're doing WireGuard negotiations, you could have the basic there. And then all that you would need to do is have an Evermore node to look up on, to run one of those DNS resolvers for the blockchain. And the reason that Squawker, the protocol didn't take off was there wasn't a way to sign those messages and distribute those tokens effectively for people to use. And whereas that's solved with Satori, because we already have the neuron, we already have the signature process, and it would just be attaching an IPFS file to that transaction, and then we have DNS.
That might be a great solution. I'm not sure. So actually, I might have you talk to the developers that are focusing on the peer-to-peer right now.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that you're aware that that's a solution that's available to us.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah.
So.
How long is this going? Are we getting close to the end there?
Yeah, we're almost there. Yeah, so guys, you have any more questions for Will, for Meta, Enzo maybe? Yeah, if there's no more question, we over here like almost 2 hours, so it will be nice content on the YouTube, like was last time anyway. So thank you everyone for joining to our third chill and chat with Satori. Thank you, Wilbo, that you was here, the experience and your knowledge. Thanks, Meta, and so Ariel Reiser. Thank you, everyone, and I hope see you next week.
Yo, thank you guys.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys. It was
See
fun.
you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day, evening.
GG's.
Enjoy your weekend.
Bye bye.